Hi, I'm Jessica Griffith, and I've been selling real estate since 2007, and I'm here with Justin.
I'm Justin Dock, and I've been buying and selling real estate ever since I was 21 years old.
So, Justin and I were having a conversation the other day that talked about an interview that I had with an attorney. Now, this is an attorney that has over 30 years' experience working with probate and trust administration and estate planning. And when I began going over the difference between the services that I provided as a traditional real estate agent and the services that I now provide as an agent who specializes in attorney referred listings, he was pretty shocked. And I was talking with Justin about this.
Well, what you don't realize when the probate, if your property goes into probate, there is a lot more time involved of when you can actually liquidate the property, and there's an immense amount of to-dos that need to be done with this. And your regular agent, even a good expert, residential expert, doesn't have a clue to what's all entailed or how to help the client who's trying to do this.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So, I remember as a traditional agent that specializes in a neighborhood, it's really easy to understand the values and the different things that will impact the ability to sell a property or how that's going to affect the price. But in a probate or a short sale or a bankruptcy sale, there's not only that information that you have to take into consideration, but there's also the anomaly of working with the courts and working with the attorneys and working with the family members in a distress situation where services that are kind of outside the box are really helpful in making sure that that process is completed in a thorough manner, but in a way that minimizes the amount of stress and the workload for the attorney as well.
Right, because it seems like a lot of the attorneys don't want to or don't have the time to be able to really help the person be able to take care of everything it needs to be taken care of. And when you have someone who's been doing this since when, 2007?
Yeah.
She knows how to go through that entire list, those services they need to do. You know, they need to deal with insurance. What are some of the things that they have to tackle that they may not realize they have to tackle until the property goes into probate?
So rather than an attorney having to hold the hand of the client when it comes to liquidating property or even just exploring the options, whether the family wants to keep it and rent it out. So I'll just give you an example. I had a probate referral from one of my attorneys, and there were family members living in this property, and they were one of 5 siblings that were named as beneficiaries of the estate. There was no will that anybody could find. This family had been living in the house 2 years past the date of death, and it was in complete disrepair. So I made contact with the occupants. I got the full story of what was going on, and unfortunately, the other heirs who felt they'd been living in the property without making any payments were doing so unfairly, and they didn't want to release any money out of the estate to these occupants to vacate the property. And so what did the occupants do? What did we have to do? We had to file for an eviction. And what did they do? They got an attorney, because that's what LA County does. They have attorneys that will contact the occupants and say, hey, we can help you. We can get you some money. So while this eviction process is going on, those occupants ended up requesting a trial by jury.
Why did they do that?
Because in a trial by jury, it costs the seller or the executor or the estate a lot of money to fight a trial by jury. And anybody who is going through the eviction process has a right to a trial by jury.
And so is that a tactic then to use to try to get them to settle?
Yes. So it's a tactic to get correct cash for keys. So basically, hey, give us money to get out of the property. Now, because they hired an attorney at that point, guess what happens?
The attorney, yeah, you were telling me the day that they can't talk to them now. But
Yeah.
you not being an attorney.
So the attorney representing the estate can no longer have any contact with the occupants. What happens now? Because a trial by jury could cost an estate anywhere from $7,500 to $12,000 to fight. And it's a lengthy process, so they're going to stay in the house longer. So while all of this is going on, I had a good enough relationship with the occupants that I was able to actually negotiate having 2 buyers come in and do their estimates of what they thought the repairs were going to cost, because it was pretty bad condition. And we were able to procure 2 competing offers at that point. And because I had two competing offers, we wanted to do what was fair and in the best interest of the estate, and I did request highest and best from both parties. So that drove the price up about 10% more than what the initial offers came in at. And meanwhile, we're still going through this eviction/trial by jury process. And now my attorney can no longer speak with the occupants because they have their own representation. But guess what?
So what?
I'm not an attorney.
So you're able to talk with them and to be able to help them see the light, so to speak, right? To help them realize this is to their benefit, to maybe consider taking these offers and going down this road instead of going down that lengthy process to the trial by jury.
You know, when you knock on the door of a property and you have a family living there, you really want to look at their situation, what they're going through, and you want to see what it is that they need. What do they absolutely need versus what they want? And what they needed was they needed some time. They also needed money. They didn't have any money. And when you have siblings that are in rivalry and they don't always agree, trying to find that balance in communication between all of them can be very delicate. So what we were able to do is I was able to see, go back to the family that was managing the estate and executing the estate and say, I think we should give them relocation assistance, give them an offer so we don't have to go to this trial by jury, which I had suggested already, but they didn't want to do. And now we're at this point where it's going to be cheaper for you guys to just give them some money and release it. So that's what we did. And I said, well, let's figure out what their motivation is. Is their motivation truly money, or is their motivation they need more time? And surprisingly enough, they needed time because they were willing to take less money to get a little bit more time in the property. So what we did is we structured a tier settlement that said if you're out in 2 weeks, you get this amount. If you're out in 3 weeks, you get this, and 4 weeks, you get this. And they ended up going with the 4 weeks. So they took the lowest paying amount. And 7 days after they vacated the property, we closed escrow.
Nice.
And it was done.
Well, so a good realtor knows how to be able to work really well with people, get people to feel comfortable, do needs-based type of questions so they can figure out what their goals and objectives are. But if, in this case, especially in probate and handling this, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how the laws work, you're very limited in being able to figure out how to be able to make a resolution in this. Jessica, doing this for the last 10 years, 12 years pretty much, has this down well. So when she talks and works with these people, she's able to use what makes her a good realtor, working really well with people, but she has all the expertise behind her to be able to help them, to resolve it in the correct way that's best for everyone.
Not only that, but I think it has to come from a place of being genuine and sincere and truly caring about people and what happens to them next. Because that family, even though they're not in agreement with the other 5 siblings, they're so human. And we still have to take into consideration what is the mental health of this family going to look like when everything is said and done, and how do we minimize the amount of strain that's happening to them, because we want a win-win for all parties. And if I don't know the law for anything particular, I just have this incredibly huge book of attorneys that I work with that I can go and I can get some feedback from and make sure that I am following the law. And if somebody needs legal advice, deferring them back to the attorney and not giving them legal advice because I'm not the attorney.
And what kind of pitfalls do people run into when they just hire an agent who's an expert in that neighborhood and knows what they're doing, but they don't know probate? What are some of the things that you would do that was above and beyond of what the expert or the friend would do?
Oh my goodness. So I've had abandoned vehicles that had liens against them that we had to get the liens removed and do something with the vehicle. We've had dead rodents and animals that had to be extracted from a property, removal of personal items, and the appraisal process, right? So the family has to do an inventory on everything that's left in the house. And a lot of times you need to bring in an estate company, or you've got to bring in a property liquidator that can help identify what garage sale value is. So really just bringing all of these services to the table for the clients. And, with the attorney, when they refer the client over and They know that they have an agent that's just going to come in and get the job done, and they don't have to deal with any of this. That is such a huge relief. And, for the family members, an attorney can charge extraordinary fees for services that go above and beyond that of the probate process. And so, what we're doing as agents is we're helping to minimize that workload for the attorney, hopefully minimize the cost, the total cost of doing the probate, and we're minimizing the timeline. Again, if I were a traditional agent trying to close this transaction and I didn't know to do all of these things proactively, a regular agent, or traditionally speaking, what I would have done is waited until the property was vacant, then put it on the market, and then who knows what we would have been up against. And the probate referee appraisal hadn't even come in yet, and my offer came in only $5,000 below that probate referee appraisal. So having an agent that gets that value is really important too.
So it's interesting you say that the probate, the appraisal, referee appraisal. Most agents wouldn't even know that's even needed.
Yeah.
And so in this case, the attorney is not going to have to hold your hand to be able to tell you what to do to be able to do this. Versus if it was just his friend or someone who wanted to hire, but someone who's had the experience of doing dozens of these would be able to kind of know this, and the attorney's not going to have to hold their hand, and it's not going to have to be worried about the transaction. It's in good hands. Excellent.
Yeah. So interesting stuff. Things you don't think about in out of the box transactions.
Certainly don't.
All right, you guys. Well, I hope that information was helpful. And if you have any questions about the probate process or you want to learn more, keep watching. We're going to keep posting.
Yes, we are.